We are live on the Trading Sliders podcast. How you doing? My name is Bobby Puckett. I'm here with Kurt the Flash Bennett, a couple of old race guys, and we're going to talk about racing. What's going on, Flash? Not much. Currently, all right, this is going to be our test show, guys. We don't know exactly if I'm going to be able to edit it. We don't know if we're going to be able to post it. So we're just going to bullshit for an hour, and maybe we get something on the air or not. And Kurt's not really going to be paying a whole lot of attention because we're watching the BC39 as we speak. So, this is test show number 1. I'm going to tell you about ourselves. You know, I'm a current announcer for the Cumberland Plateau Open Wheel Modified Series, former racer, do some announcing for the American Sprint Car Tour. Kurt, he's a former / still active racer. He hasn't hung up the helmet just yet.
Just about to, though.
He says he's about to, but he's been telling me that for 3 or 4 years. So we'll see if. But we're just a couple of old guys going to talk about racing. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, mostly dirt track racing. We'll venture out and talk pavement a little bit if it's okay with you, Flash.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, Flash.
We've done a little bit of that too.
Yeah, so we've done both. We've done dirt. We've done pavement. This is my traveling buddy. We travel all over the country together. When I say all over the country, I mean we've literally done about 1 million miles together.
Yeah, right. We wore out a Cobalt.
Yeah, we wore out a Cobalt. We wore out a Dodge Neon. We've worked on. Flash has done traded his. He's got 3 cars since we started going racing.
We put a few miles on here and there.
Yeah, we hit racetracks, guys. I've been to 327 racetracks across the country.
I'm over 120 probably.
Yeah, Kurt, he's around 120 or so. So, you know, if it's happened, we've seen it. Like that Weber Valley stuff. We've seen most of that happen live in person.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of that's no joke.
Yeah, some of that is real talk. So, way this show format's going to go, like I say, we're just going to talk about racing. We're going to do interviews with current racers, promoters, announcers, fans, and we're going to do something called the old racetrack segment. And this is what Kurt and I are both really looking forward to this the most. We're going to talk to a bunch of old racers that used to run the Sportsdrome in Louisville and Charlestown and all the tracks in our area. Because we are the old guys now, and there's guys older than us, and while they're still around, we're still going to try to get some of their interviews.
Yeah, because I'm sure they got some really good stories that we haven't even heard. We might have seen it, but we haven't heard their side of it. So
yeah, as I said, there's a lot of stuff that me and Kurt, we were kids running around, and we could say, you know, why'd you guys do this? And they can fill us in and say that's not really how it went. But hopefully you guys enjoy the show. Like I said, we're going to try to get this out on all the podcast networks, on Facebook and YouTube. I'm really new to editing and everything, so if this makes the air, hopefully tell everybody, we'll tell everybody where to reach it. If not, we'll try again, and all this is for nothing.
We'll eventually figure it out. Like we said, we're old guys.
Yeah, we're
not real computer savvy.
Yeah, we're 2 old dudes trying to figure out how to work this. I've got a laptop in front of me, a tablet, we got a couple cell phones, and we got the TV on. So we don't know exactly what we're doing, but we're gonna have fun with it. Flash, last week, you know, a hurricane came in and everything got washed out, but we were able to catch a race last week, and we made the trip up to Brownstown Speedway. Probably the best Brownstown Speedway's been in 10 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say so too.
I mean, the racetrack was in good shape, but one time Dustin Jarrett said, you know, the best track prep is Mother Nature. Mother Nature blessed us at Brownstown Wednesday night for the flow race, but not so much the rest of the week. I think we got close to 6 inches of rain here in the Louisville area, which isn't bad considering what Tennessee and Florida got. You know, we really didn't have any hurricane. We just had a little bit of a storm, but you know, the races got rained out all over. The Jackson 100 is postponed, so hopefully they'll make that up. That's a race that, you know, Flash and I both have been to quite a few times.
Yeah, that's supposed to be one of the races for the championship run too for those guys. So yeah, I think they'll probably try to get that in as best they can.
Yeah, well, that's what James Essex said the other night, that they're going to get it in. Honestly, I think they're kind of waiting to see if East Bay is going to be a go.
Right.
If East Bay is not going to be a go, because you know they were under 10 feet of water, I'm pretty sure the second weekend of October is going to be the Jackson 100.
Yeah.
You know, it sucks that East Bay, since they announced that they're closing, they've had rainouts after rainouts. I mean, we were just in Florida a couple weeks ago, going to try to hit East Bay one last time, and I've been to East Bay before, but you never have.
I never had made it. I was really looking forward to making it there, but Well, Mother Nature again.
Yeah, she won again, and she wasn't playing that night either. We got about 3 or 4 inches of rain.
Yeah.
We damn near got flooded in Florida a few weeks ago. So
Yeah.
But back to Brownstown. Like I said, there was 37 super late models, and they ran super stocks. I think they had 23, 24 super stocks. To me, it was Brownstown of the old. Had a big cushion. Got a little dusty in the feature. It wouldn't be Brownstown if it didn't.
Right.
But for guys who grow up like me and you, we grew up racing at the Sportstrom. I'm pretty sure Thunder Valley was my first dirt track I raced. Was Thunder Valley your first dirt track, or?
No, actually, Ponderosa was the first place I ever raced at.
All right,
Yeah. Actually, the day I raced Ponderosa, I had practiced at Taylor County Speedway, and the guy I was driving for told me to meet him at the racetrack. Well, I went to Taylor County Speedway. Nobody was there. He didn't tell me we was racing in Ponderosa, so we had to drive cross country for 2 hours to get to Ponderosa. Made it there just in time to pull out on the track to make my first hot laps on that track to qualify.
And speaking of Ponderosa, they're Mother Nature approved. They're going to reopen again this Friday with a $1,500 to win crate race. It was supposed to be the Great Crate Race, a $10,000 to win race, but the guys down there said, with this being their first time ever promoting a race, they didn't want to bring in a national touring series, which is understandable.
Yeah, which is probably a good idea.
Because the track's been closed all summer, and it's probably going to have a little bit of character, as they say. Yeah. So it's probably a good idea. But what I'm saying is everybody that grew up in the Louisville area, Kurt's right across the bridge there and from Clarksville, Brownstown Speedway is the racetrack in the area. They have Lucas Oil races. They have World of Outlaw races. They used to always run the Northern All-Star stuff. And speaking of that, we're going to talk about the Northern All-Stars here in a little bit. But, there's 4 or 5 racetracks, Eldora, Knoxville, East Bay. But Brownstown Speedway is right there in the top 5. We make crap on it a lot because we go there. Yeah. But, my wife and I was there not too long ago, and there was an older couple from Tennessee talked about how much they love Brownstown. And she looked at them like, "Do what?" But I told her it's because you're here every week. So, the aura of Brownstown is.
Which we kind of got spoiled too, because we used to go when there was 70 super late models on a regular night. And, you just don't get that anymore. But
to be fair, you don't get that anywhere.
Yeah.
You don't get that anywhere.
But that's just how we kind of got spoiled a long time ago as far as the really good racing,
So, but like I said, at Brownstown the other night, the podium, Hudson O'Neal won. It was pretty neat to see Hudson win back, at Brownstown. Don O'Neal, his dad, was racing. He missed the show by 1 spot. That kind of sucked. It would have been nice to see Don race with Huddy, but Hudson O'Neal picked up the win. Tanner English was second, and Tim McCready rounded out the top 3. The performer of the night, in my eyes, was Devin Moran.
Yeah, started 17th.
Yeah, he started 17th and ran 4th, picked up 13 spots. Him and Ricky Thornton Jr. had a little incident on the racetrack, and honestly, I didn't see it at the time, so I asked Flash, I said, "What happened?" And Flash's words was, Ricky Thornton Jr. didn't give him a whole lot of room, and Devin Moran took the room he didn't give him.
Pretty much what happened.
It's pretty much what happened. When I got home, I watched it. I watched the replay, and he called it right.
The point on those cars where they was at coming off the track too, the back end of the left rear of that car was probably so light anyway, it didn't take nothing to get him around. So he just barely hooked him, and he didn't hook him with the back,
didn't spin him with the nose. Yeah.
He caught him with the quarter panel on the outside and turned him. It just happens. It looked like a racing deal to me.
Yeah, that's 2 dudes that raced before that. I've been in plenty of crashes. You've been in plenty of crashes. Yeah. So we say it's a racing deal. Ricky Thornton Jr. was a little upset with him. I don't think Ricky Thornton Jr., by knowing Ricky, I don't think he's upset with Devin Moran. He's just got so much going on his plate. Yeah. And I really think he wanted to outrun Hudson and the SSI team at Brownstown. I think he was more pissed off that he wasn't having a good night than he was at Devin. And Devin Moran screwed up in his heat race is the reason why he got back there. He had to run a B main. Because if not, Hudson O'Neal may not have won that race because Devin Moran was flying at Brownstown. But woulda, coulda, shoulda. So, but Devin Moran, he drove a hell of a race. But Hudson O'Neal won. RTJ ended up 15th. After the incident, he didn't finish the race. So that gave Bobby Pierce the point lead with just Sonoya left in November for the Castro night. So Bobby Pierce I think he's second in by 46 points right now in the World of Outlaw.
Yeah, World of Outlaw.
So,
and what's his name? The 9 car.
Nick Hoffman.
Yeah, Nick Hoffman made up some ground last night too in the World of Outlaws.
Yeah, Hoffman. I think
He's
Hoffman
10 points behind
Pierce.
Pierce, I believe now. Yeah.
So if Pierce didn't have the little tire issue, we're not going to say he cheated or he didn't. But if he didn't have that, he would heavily be in the World of Outlaw points. But I think I heard somewhere. I think it was on Dirt Tracker Daily or somewhere. They said I think there's 4 or 5 World of Outlaw races, and Bobby Pierce has got to outrun Brandon Sheppard by 6 positions every race to win the points. So that's going to be kind of tough to do.
That's going to be tough to do with Sheppard.
Yeah. And another thing, too, kind of late breaking news. Of course, by the time we get it edited, it's not going to be breaking news. But Brandon Sheppard is going back to a Rocket car next year.
Oh, yeah.
Brandon Sheppard he's switching back to Rocket. That's a positive thing. I think everybody's in a Longhorn now. And Sheppard the Longhorn never really fitted his driving style.
It didn't click with him, I don't think.
And that happens. I mean, because it's not like the guys at Rocket forgot how to build race cars.
Right.
And Hudson O'Neal ran good, and Tim McCready, the last 5 or 6 races has been running real good. But Kurt, I was going to tell you something. We didn't talk about this when we left the races because we were too busy gushing over how big the cushion was, and we were smiling because it was Brownstown of the Ode. But when T-Mac did his interview for 3rd place, T-Mac kind of acted like a guy that was begging for his job.
Yeah.
He said, I haven't got too old to do this yet. I hope I still get an opportunity. So what do you think about that? Because there's rumors out there that T-Mac's gone at the end of the year. But, Tim McCready, we not grew up, but we watched Tim McCready grow up racing cars.
Right. Yeah.
And he's still one of the top guys on the National Touring Series.
Yeah. I wouldn't count Tim McCready out any night.
No, I mean, he's one of the few guys, like everybody talks about what Ricky Thornton Jr. is doing now. Yeah, well, guess what? Ricky Thornton Jr. went to run the Chili Bowl. Tim McCready won the Chili Bowl.
Yeah.
He won the Chili Bowl when the Kensers and Tony Stewarts and when everybody was running the Chili Bowl. So, I hope Tim McCready is not out of the Rocket ride. If he is, I'm sure he'll land somewhere.
Yeah.
But because people say Mark Richards is hard to deal with. I don't know. I don't know Mark Richards. I know one thing. When you run a business and you're as successful as a business as Rocket Race Cars has been for the last 25 years, you probably are going to be a little hard to deal with.
Yeah, you should probably be a little picky about what goes on.
Yeah. I mean, so that's just my opinion. But hopefully Tim McCready, doesn't lose the Rocket House car because I think they're just now hitting their stride. He got in the Final 4, so he has a shot. I mean, what kind of irony would it be? Last year's points leader leaves Rocket, and then what if he so happens wins the championship here, with 5 or 6 races left in Lucas Oil, and he's not at Rocket. So hopefully it all works out.
Yeah. Another thing I was going to say, though, too, about what we was talking about earlier with Don O'Neal. The thing about Don O'Neal the other night, though, he was back in a Masterbuilt car, which you don't see many of them anymore can make a feature in the Lucas Oil Series, I was really impressed with that.
Well, Don O'Neal, like I said, I got this on my show notes here because, like I said, we're rookies of this, but it's been 4 years since Don O'Neal's been in a race car. And in Hot Laps, when the track was hammered down, it didn't bother him at all. In qualifying, he put himself behind the 8-ball. He tried the Jim Curry line in qualifying, but evidently Don O'Neal hasn't been at Brownstown in the last 3 or 4 years. They pushed the tires out early and they move them in, and he just about smoked the U-tire in 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So not only did he screw up his first lap, he screwed up his second lap because he pushed off the front stretch. So,
yeah, he could have been better if it wasn't for that, I think.
Yeah, but Don O'Neal held his own with the best drivers in the country. And, good news about Don O'Neal is after the race, James Essick was interviewing Don O'Neal. He was interviewing Hudson, and he asked Don O'Neal how much fun did he have and was he done. I think Don O'Neal kind of let a cat out of the bag. I think he's going to be in a new Masterbuilt house car, and I believe Don O'Neal is going to run about 15 or 20 races next year.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be really nice to see because I think Don O'Neal, a lot of guys don't understand this. Dirt on Dirt was a big thing back then. You had Bloomquist and you had Moyer, but Don O'Neal is probably the first real regional guy that anytime the UDTRA or the Have a Tampa Series come to anywhere in Indiana or Kentucky. I was at Bluegrass Speedway one night and Don O'Neal was in staging, and Bloomquist went up and looked at Don O'Neal's right rear tire and backed back up to the trailer and changed the tire because Don O'Neal was one of the first guys that would put you on your ass when you come to, we'll call it the Kentuckiana region. So hopefully Don O'Neal is going to be back in the race car some more next year. One more thing, speaking of James Essex, the Northern All-Star Late Model Series was brought back this year, and that's really positive because Indiana has basically gone strictly crate racing. As we know, Flash has got a crate car. Indiana is strictly crate, and Flash don't want them to go super late racing far as competing with them,
No.
but he wants them to go super racing so we can go to races.
Yeah, watch super racing.
Yeah, because James Essex. I went to the Northern All-Star Late Model Race at Circle City this year, and it was great. It was on one of those weekends where we got weather everywhere else, and I think he ended up with like 40 cars that night. And it was right before Ricky Thornton Jr. left SSI because I think that was one of his final wins with the team, with the $10,000 to win Northern All-Star Late Model Race there at Circle City. The Northern All-Star Late Model Series is, it's coming back next year with a vengeance, I've heard. I talked to James Essex at Bloomington Speedway earlier this year, and he said the Indiana Bull Rings are going to have a pretty extensive late model schedule next year. I don't know if James really wants us putting this out there, but I got news for you. If you tell me something at the racetrack, it's available for me to tell somebody else. And it looks like the Northern All-Star Late Models are going to try to go to Lincoln Park, Hobstadt, Bloomington, Brownstown, Lawrenceburg, Circle City. So some of the best bull rings in the country are in Indiana. And if the Northern All-Star Late Models and the Mars Series collaborate, and if he can work with the Mars Series and get some of the Illinois tracks, we're going to have a really good regional series that we haven't had in our area in a long time.
Yeah, that'd be nice to have too, because it seems like you got to travel a little further south sometimes to see some of the really good races.
Yeah, there's plenty of late model races in the South. There's like 10 late model divisions each night. Like I said earlier, I announced for the Cumberland Plateau Series, and we made a trip on our way to Florida. We made a trip to Sugar Creek Raceway in Georgia, and I think they had 602 late models, 604 late models, limited late models, B hobby late models, A hobby late models. So there's plenty of late models in the South. But when you get up here to the upper Midwest and the Midwest, we don't have as much super late model racing as we once did. And that's really a shame, really. We used to have the Battle of the Bluegrass Series and Northern All-Star Series in this area. And hopefully, regional late model racing is coming back to this area.
Yeah, I'd like to see them get at least 20 regulars on a night, that follow the series, which would be nice, because then there's going to be some crate cars filling, there's going to be. But I think James is trying to he's really good about promoting the crate cars as far as doing a money for like the highest finishing crate car and all that. So he does a really good job helping those guys out too.
Yeah, James Essex is a legend. I'll be like, there's 4 or 5 guys that you associated with dirt racing. Obviously, like Jack Hewitt in the open wheel world, but James Essex in the late model world, there's not a bigger, I want to say, influencer, because he speaks his mind. He doesn't play political games at all. He wants what's best for late model racing and racing in general. And with the promoters and stuff that's out there now, it's really hard to find somebody that wants, the betterment of the sport. So I'm a big fan of James Essex. But one thing I wanted to touch on before we, leave Brownstown, there were some people that I seen that were griping about the postponement of the Jackson 100. Kurt and I were talking before we got started, and I'll let Kurt say this, because honestly, that's kind of what I was thinking. You go ahead and say what you said before we got started.
A lot of people were griping about the weather, but I mean, there's probably 100 different weather apps out there. You can find out if it's going to rain that weekend or not. So, I mean, you either we've had 90% chance of rain going to the racetrack before, and we're the guys that say, well, the's 10% chance that it's not.
Yeah. So,
and our wives can vouch for that because they're in the back seat laughing at us because we're driving that far. But
yeah, I mean, I'll get right back to that, but I mean, guys, everywhere in the country was talking about the rain this weekend, and the Castro Night got their race in. It was $20,000 to win on a Wednesday night, and BC 39 just about put one in the fence. Sorry, but it was $20,000 to win on a Wednesday night, and they were done at 10 o'clock. We were back home by 11. So if you got a problem with that, you need to reevaluate, what kind of fan you are, because we knew that the possibility that the rain was coming this weekend, and the racers know it. The racers knew it, and they're not bitching about racing for $20,000 on a Wednesday night.
No.
But talking about we're the guys that will make the drive. About a month ago, we decided the race that I was going to call got rained out at Lake Cumberland Speedway for the Cumberland Plateau Open Wheel Modified Series. So I hit Flash up. Say, hey, Flash, this is normally how our conversation go. Let you guys in on a little inside tip. I call him up, say, hey, Flash, I'm going to be by your house about 20 minutes. You want to travel 300 miles with me? And the answer is usually yes.
Yeah.
And just like the other night, he calls me and goes, you going to Brownstown? No, he didn't even call me. He texted me. Said, you going to Brownstown? And my answer to him was, I'll pick you up at 5:30.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the gist of our conversations. So our race got rained out. So we decided that we were going to go watch the $10,000 to win UMP modified race at one of the best racetracks in the country, Fairbury. Went up there. Weather was beautiful. The race was great. If you have a bad time at Fairbury, you probably need to not go to the racetrack.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I say here at the Trading Sliders podcast, we're fans of monster cushions and big slide jobs, and you get that at Fairbury in every division.
Yeah.
So the next night we were going to go to Spoon River. Mother Nature won. So we got looking around, and we were going to go south. It was raining. We were going to go back east. It was raining. But you know where it wasn't raining?
You were going to have to go call another
Yeah,
race.
yeah, oh yeah. First,
Yeah.
scratch that. We were going to leave Fairbury and make like the 7-hour drive
Yeah.
down to Smoky Mountain Speedway, and they canceled. So we decided we were going to hit another race. So we looked around, thought about going up to Wisconsin, but it was almost undoable with how much time we had left. But we found a race in West Burlington, Iowa. And first time that myself and Flash have been to 34 Raceway, and they were running an NRA Sprint Invaders race. I got to let you guys in a little tidbit. I'm a fan of all racing. I love late model racing, non-wing sprint car racing, open wheel modified racing is probably my favorite. I like wing sprint cars, especially the 410s, but the 360s really race good. And I told Flash, I said, all right, I found us a track. And he said, where are we going? And we're sitting at the hotel, and I told him, we need to get rolling. So we told our wives, hey, you need to hurry up and, you know, get packed up because we got about a 6.5-hour drive to make. And we made it to West Burlington, Iowa. And he didn't even ask me what we was racing. About halfway there, he said, what are they running tonight? And I told him 360 sprint cars. And he looked at me, he's like, what else are they running? And I said, and he's like, well, what else? And I'm like, 360 sprint cars and Hornets. So we made a 200 and something mile drive. And he became a believer at night in wing sprint cars.
Yeah. 360s anyway.
Yeah.
They put on a really good show.
So Flash, he's not a real big wing sprint car guy. But like I said, it's, you know, different strokes for different folks. You know, I like wing sprint car racing, but non-wing.
I like them. I just think the features are over too quick.
Yeah. So it's kind of like date night, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, date night's fun, but, you know, the night just ends a little too quick sometimes. But, you know, that's not really our fault, ladies. Just putting it out there. That's not our fault. But we made it, you know, we made it work. And, you know, there will be stories like that all over. You know, we've gone all over the country. We've traveled to just about anywhere you could think of. You know, this started, I guess it's been about 15 years ago now.
Yeah. Well, you just bought your Cobalt, whatever year that was.
Yeah. So I got done racing, and Flash was still racing, and we started, I think USAC Sprint Week is what started our friendship. We'd known each other before each other because he kicked my ass at the Sportsdrome every week. So he kicked everybody's ass at the Sportsdrome.
And then my dad and your dad raced each other all the time.
So like I said, our dads raced together, and you know, we've always been buddies, but then we became, you know, I guess BFFs, so to speak. We
met each other at Lawrenceburg that night.
Yeah, we went to Lawrence. Actually, we met each other the night before it's when Levi Jones ballparked it at at Twin Cities.
Yeah, Twin Cities.
Yeah, we were sitting there and we were bullshitting.
Yeah, and they got him back out in time for the heat race to make the feature.
So we were sitting there and we were bullshitting, and then it was Sprint Week, and the next night we ran into each other in Lawrenceburg. So we exchanged phone numbers, said, hey, if we're going to go to all these damn races, let's at least ride together, you know, and then
that's when it started.
It started, I guess it was about 15 years ago, and we've been putting a lot of blacktop in between races. You know, we've been to the Chili Bowl together. We've traveled, you know.
A lot of ice bowls together.
Yeah, we've done the ice bowl. We went to the infamous ice bowl that got iced out and ended up in New Orleans for the weekend. So, you know, our race trips will take a turn. Hell, you never know where we'll end up. And sometimes we might get rained out 2 or 3 times in one night.
Yeah.
We did that once this year.
We did this year once.
Yeah, so we got, not only did we get rained out at 3 racetracks, the third one we got to, we were going to be in time to see the feature. The damn lights went out.
Yeah.
It started raining again.
They would have got the feature in.
So, it happens. Speaking of getting races in, the World of Outlaws, they've got the World of Outlaw late models got both their races in this weekend. Friday night at Boot Hill, it was a pretty good race in Greenwood, Louisiana. They ended up with 42 super late models, and Ryan Gustin got the win. Bobby Pierce was second, and Dustin Sorensen was third. What I like seeing about that top three, though, Dustin Sorensen and Ryan Gustin, two former modified guys, and Ryan Gustin they traded their Longhorn in and got an Infinity by Wells. He was the first guy with an Infinity, and I think he's won 5 or 6 races.
Yeah, he's been doing really well lately.
So the Reaper's been on a tear. If you guys watched any of the Dirt Night episodes, hell, I guess that was 10, 15 years ago. It's probably longer than that. The IMCA Dirt Night stuff that was on, the young kid, the little chubby kid that was always, upset after the race. Well, that's Ryan Gustin.
Yeah.
And he's not upset anymore because he's splitting wigs on the World of Outlaw Tour. But I said it was a pretty good race. Boot Hill Raceway, it's a little quarter mile. Honestly, I thought Billy Moyer was going to have a way better run. He started 6th, and DNF, they broke something on the rear end. Speaking of Billy Moyer, did you see where he got us another win? 9,467, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
He added to his win total with the Comp Cams race a few weeks ago. So it's good to see the old guys still getting it done.
I think he's 67.
Yeah, I think he's 67, 68. I don't want to say rumor mill, but I hear that he's going to do some more racing in the Lance Landers ride next year. I'm not going to be the one to say that Jonathan Davenport's out of a ride. You hear people saying stuff like that, but I think there's going to be a 2-car team next year, and Billy Moyer is going to be back in one of the top teams.
I believe at the Lucas Oil race this year, though, he had a Billy Moyer.
Yeah, he was in
Davenport.
He was in Jarrett Lander's car.
Yeah.
At the topless race.
Had some of their sponsors on there. It looked just about like Davenport's car.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be a 2-car team next year. I know there's rumors out there Davenport's going to leave and start his own chassis business, but I think Davenport's been on record to say, he's got about 4 or 5 good years left in him. I got news for you. For a guy that's built race cars, and raced the cars that he's built, from the ground up, if he's got 5 years left in him, he don't want to start no damn chassis business because that will drive you crazy. So, hats off to Billy Moyer. The World of Outlaws, the Saturday night, Rocket Raceway Park in Texas, they ended up with 32 cars. I didn't get to catch this one. You seen it. Brian Shirley won from the pole. Kay Diller in second. You said that the track locked down pretty quick.
Yeah, there was no outside. There was no second or third groove.
There was so coming from a guy that runs the top his whole career, if he says there's no second, he's really pissed off. There's no third groove.
They were trying, but they couldn't make nothing happen up there.
Yeah, so I cheated on this one. I didn't even watch the highlights because after you told me it sucked, I took your word for it, and I just looked on my race pass. But I did see it. Tristan Chamberlain ended up third, and he passed 14 cars.
Yeah.
So he must have got it done really quick.
He said he did it all within the first 10 laps. He said they had a caution on lap 10. He looked up and he was running 5th. He didn't even know where he was at yet. But he did impress me, though, because he had to run 40 laps without screwing up. He had the 40 car of
the killer, Kyle Bronson.
Yeah, he was right behind him the whole time, and he never screwed up enough to let Bronson get under him.
Well,
he did a really good job.
Well, that's hard to do because Kyle Bronson.
Actually, he pulled about a second on Bronson there at the end of the race. He actually got about a second out in front of him, so he had a little breathing room there.
Well, Tristan Chamberlain, he's another kid that when we were talking about the regional racing, he would have really, really benefited from the Northern All-Star Series, being up about 2 years ago. Because this kid has a boatload of talent. And a lot of people don't understand his dad is insane Dwayne Chamberlain. Dwayne Chamberlain is a genius when it comes to building and setting up race cars. He had a working relationship with Scott Bloomquist back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Dwayne Chamberlain did. And the sweet Bloomquist race cars that end up being the Team Zero cars, I'm pretty sure Dwayne Chamberlain was one of the first guys that, worked on that with Bloomquist and was the original builder of the Team Zero. Dwayne Chamberlain he's a regional hot shoe, and he got the name from Insane Dwayne. I'm pretty sure it was at Liberty, up in Liberty, or maybe it was Scottsburg, but it was a Northern All-Star late model race, and Steve Barnett and Dwayne Chamberlain were going for this. It had to be Liberty because that was always a single file racetrack. Yeah. So they were going for the same position, and they got together. and Dwayne Chamberlain spun the car around, and as what we call people, he droned him. Dwayne Chamberlain hit Barnett head on, and they pulled him apart. And Dustin Jarrett was on the call that night, and Dustin Jarrett is the one that gave him the insane Dwayne Chamberlain name. I remember that I was there. I'm pretty sure it was up in Liberty, but you know, Tristan Chamberlain he's someone to watch out for. He's a young kid. I think he's 15 now, maybe 16. So, you know, onto that. Also, big shout out. We are here on the Trading Sliders podcast. We are big proponents of the IMCA world. A lot of guys complain about the crate cars and, you know, there's too many rules and, you know, so-and-so's got a cheated motor. IMCA racing, we've been to the Super Nationals.
Yeah.
We're an advocate for the Super Nationals. We're an advocate for IMCA racing. And for people that are skeptical, especially in Indiana, listen to this. Last night at 141 Speedway in Wisconsin, the IMCA 15th annual Strong Creek Classic, 299 race cars on a one-day program. Let me say that again. 299 race cars on a single day program. So if you're telling me that IMCA racing does not work, I'm telling you, you're full of shit. Because they had 51 mods, 57 street stocks, 68 sport mods, 50 of the IMCA stock cars, which is the most competitive class of race cars anywhere in the country. They had 70-something sport compacts. So a big shout out to 141 Speedway, and the winner of the modified A main was none other than TW Tim Ward. And check this out, Kurt. The stock car winner, he's still getting it done after all these years, is Benji Lacrosse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Benji Lacrosse won the stock car A main. Funny story about Benji Lacrosse. Kurt and I went down to the Ice Bowl at Talladega probably 15 years ago, and they call up hot laps, and we're walking through the pits, and you know, we're talking, and we're sitting there talking to a few guys. And actually, I think we were talking to Tater and them from Masterbuilt.
I think so.
And they were pitted there right next to Benji Lacrosse, and they called the mods up, and Flash asked him, said, "You gonna go out and hot lap?" He said, "Nah, no sense doing that. Truck's all burned up." And about 4 hours later, guess who was in Victory Lane to Ice Bowl? Benji Lacrosse. We said, "Well, I guess you don't need no damn hot laps." So the guy drove 17 hours from northern Wisconsin, didn't even hot lap, went out, qualified on the pole, and won the feature. But Benji Lacrosse still getting it done in the IMCA stock car. And speaking of guys that still getting it done, I seen last week where Kelly Shyrock won an IMCA modified race at Clay County Fair Speedway. So that's another old guy for us old guys getting it done.
Yeah, he was on the Dirt Night Show.
Yeah. Shyrock was on the Dirt Night Show. So that's another group, another one for the old guys. You know, we'll give the young kids, you know, their due, but when the old guy wins, we're definitely going to talk about that. And also this weekend, there was a few sprint car races that got in. 34 Raceway, they got in the Sprint Invaders this weekend. There was 38 cars, and Aaron Reitzel, he's been off the national tour for 2 years now, ever since the deal with Roth Motorsports, where he ran a chassis that wasn't quite legal with Woo specs, and you know, they went back and forth. But Aaron Reitzel picked up the win. The Sprint Invaders. It was good to see Aaron Reitzel get back to victory lane. And Plymouth Dirt Track up in Wisconsin, they had 33 410 wing sprint cars, and the big wheel Scotty Thiel picked up the win for the NRA sprint cars up there. And the last sprint car race I want to talk about this weekend was the Midwest Non-Wing Sprint Car Association. They were at Valley Raceway in Missouri. This is a place I haven't been to, Kurt, but it's a quarter-mile bull ring. Kind of looks like the old Daughtry Speedway, the old Boswell Speedway.
Oh yeah.
And
I know that really well.
Yeah, you know that real well. You want to tell them about your Boswell Speedway story before we go on?
First time I ever went to Boswell, I set fast time and pulled out for the feature, and during hot laps, I flipped a car.
Yeah. Yeah. So
never made it to start the feature.
Yeah, he never
broke her right rear wheel, hit the wall, turned it upside down.
Yeah, Flash made the trip to Boswell, and the announcer hit him with a quick time, but he never made a lap. That's
not in the feature.
Yeah, he never made it in the features. You know, but that's the way this Valley Speedway is. They had 28 cars, but talk about we travel all over to, to catch races, and I say this all the time: racers race. Well, it's raining all over Indiana, and Ricky Lewis decides, you know what? I'm supposed to be running a midget at the BC 39. It's obvious that the Hurricane is, doing its best to water the racetrack, turn the dirt track in Indianapolis Motor Speedway into a pond. And Ricky Lewis hops in his dually and heads. I think I think I seen where it was 9 hours, and Ricky Lewis picks up the win. And guys, if you guys are a fan of guys that drive balls out, balls to the wall, Ricky Lewis out of California. Actually, I think he actually claims Nevada or Arizona.
Yeah.
Wherever the hell he's from. He's from Speedway, Indiana right now. And Ricky Lewis he's a sprint car racer. He reminds me a lot of Brian Clausen.
Yeah.
If I put it to you this way, if Ricky Lewis unloads his car at the racetrack, you've got a race on your hands that night.
Yeah. I've only seen him run a handful of times actually myself, but the times I did, he impressed me.
Yeah, he drives the wheels off the car. So that was all the few guys that got races in this weekend. Like I said, next weekend hopefully we can talk about that. But I also want to say, as we're still watching the BC 39 and they're interviewing Zach Dahm right now. Zach Dahm needs a haircut, and I guess I'm a bald guy, so I probably shouldn't be commenting on his hair, but that shit is everywhere.
You might be a little jealous.
Yeah, I might be a little jealous, but put it this way: if I had long enough hair to get it cut, it would not look like that. So, but hats off to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They really could have pulled the plug on this, and they didn't. They ran 2 shows today, and right now they're about ready to run the A main. But Doug Bowles, he's made a big commitment to open wheel racing, and they tried something this year Thursday night on the preliminary night. They had an invite only, and CJ Leary took the sprint car win. But they ran sprint cars on the 5th mile inside turns 3 there, and I'll be honest with you, I really, really wish I know they built this track in honor of Brian Clausen, and Brian loved midgets, and the BC 39. It's a great thing. It's I think it's the richest paying midget race in the country. It pays more than, well, we only talk about the Chili Bowl and the pay because Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell caused a big uproar over that. But it's the biggest paying midget race in the country, and those guys have gone all in on short track open wheel racing. And Kurt, you live in Indiana. I wish I lived in Indiana. I try to tell my wife all the time, let's move to the Indianapolis area, but she won't do it because I love sprint car racing, and I love the fact that, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has gone all in, and, and Circle City, that all around the Indianapolis area, they've added, new tracks, and, it shows that they're giving back to what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about, every kid that grows up in Indiana, their dream is to race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we know that that's not really doable anymore. You used to be able to race your way to Indy.
Yeah.
Well, you're not doing it no more. Hopefully they'll have more events at this racetrack, because then every kid in Indiana can maybe take their modified or their street stock or their crate late model or their super late model and race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Right.
So I think this is a trial error to see what the bigger cars would do.
Right.
And the sprint cars put on a good show, and the guys over in Illinois saying, what's the problem racing on 5th mile tracks? We do it all the time.
Yeah, Macon.
Macon, Belclair.
Yeah.
Speaking of Belclair, before we move on, this is another thing too on this show. We might jump around a little bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of Belclair, did you see where they're opening Belclair back up next year? But the racetrack's going to be where the pits was, and where the racetrack was is going to be the grandstands. So they're flipping the track around because they got a grant, the COVID grant, and they built a big building up front. But iRacing came in and scanned it.
The same.
So they're going to build the exact same racetrack, just on the back side where the pit used to be.
Maybe without the railroad ties for the wall.
Yeah, I think they'll probably update the walls. They'll definitely update the grandstands that we almost fell through that night. But they're going to build the same track. And guys, when they do this, you have to check out a race at Belclair.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's midgets.
I've only been one time, and right after I went, it's when they pretty much quit running, so I didn't get to go anymore. But I was really looking forward to going back.
Yeah, Belclair, it's a true definition of banging the boards racetrack.
Oh yeah.
Literally, because the damn turns were boards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where the phrase maybe came from.
Uh-huh.
But they run on the small tracks in Illinois all the time. So hopefully Indianapolis Motor Speedway does that. Upcoming races this weekend in the Midwest, the American Sprint Car Tour. I don't know if I'm able to make it this weekend because their race got rained out and they're going to be at Shady Hill this weekend coming up. I've got prior engagement, so I may not make it up to Shady Hill this weekend, but we're still waiting on, reschedules from other things. So, but we got Shady Hill this weekend, the American Sprint Car Tour. Also this Friday night, the Maverick Wing Sprint Cars is at Lincoln Park. So hopefully that show happens because they kind of had a debacle at Terre Haute Action Track 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they scheduled a race. I don't know if you heard about this, Kurt, but
I didn't hear about it.
Well, they scheduled a race, and they actually had like 10 cars show up. 4 or 5 of them come from Pennsylvania, made the 16 drive overnight, but they pulled the plug on the race. It wasn't because of weather. It was because they only had 10 cars, and the race was going to pay $10,000 to win.
Oh, yeah.
So they added the mods to the schedule, to the non-wing sprint car schedule here in a couple weeks. So hopefully Maverick can overcome that and race Lincoln Park Friday. I'm sure that probably left a bad taste in the fans' mouth and the drivers alone. I think they did make it right though. I think they gave everybody tow money. I don't know if it's gonna cover the overnight no sleeping. Definitely being pissed off heading back to Pennsylvania. But so hopefully the Maverick Wing Sprint Cars get their race in. Also this weekend, the Midwest Thunder Sprint Cars is at one of the top 5 racetracks in the country, the Tri-State Speedway. They got the $8,000 to win Harvest Cup. They're running the 410 non-wing sprint cars and the 305, the IMCA Race Saver wing sprints. If you guys are listening to this show, and you're in the Louisville area, hopefully this reaches bigger platforms. But if you're in the Louisville area and you're listening to this show, make the iron 40-minute drive to Tri-State Speedway.
Yeah.
If you do it once, you'll do it every time.
No matter what they run there, I've never seen a bad race.
Tri-State Speedway does not have bad races. I'll tell you something else they don't have. They don't have bad cheeseburgers. No. Tri-State it's called the Clash Track. It's an old school. They do farm the track a lot.
Yeah.
They get flack for that, but you're not gonna get flack from that from us. No. Anytime you go to the race and there's no dust, a big cushion, and slide jobs, I don't give a shit if you gotta farm the track 10 times that night. Yeah. And, I'm happy for it. But
if it rains early, we'll try to get the race in.
Yes, we got flooded one night.
Yeah,
literally flooded. The infield looked like a pond.
There was 4 foot of water on up the tire tractor.
Yeah,
or the tractor tire.
The tractor tire was covered in the infield.
Yeah, and they pumped it out and raced an hour later.
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half. We ran up to Walmart and got some towels.
Yeah, to dry
off to take cover because it was a mess. But the Helfrich and on our old racetrack segment, I'm gonna try to get Tom Helfrich because Helfrich was a late model racer that kicked everybody's ass in Indiana. But he promotes one of the best racetracks in the country. Might honestly be the best racetrack in the country.
Yeah.
I know the facility's clean and nice. It's old, and I'm not gonna say that they need new bleachers or anything because I love Tri-State Speedway. I love how you sit close to the track and. The racing is phenomenal. So I'm going to try to get Tom Helfrich on. That's going to be one of our old guy segments, the old racetrack segment. He doesn't know that yet,
yeah.
but I'm going to try.
We've got quite a few people in mind already.
Yeah, we got a bunch of people that we're going to try to get on the show. Also this weekend, Circle City. They have the Boss Outlaw Sprint Cars. I've seen them 2 or 3 times this year myself. 410 non-wing sprint cars, and Circle City is a racetrack that's been producing bangers of lately. The USAC shows have been great there. The fast 410 wing sprint cars that night that they got rained out when I was up there. It's unbelievable seeing a sprint car going around a quarter-mile racetrack in 9 seconds.
Yeah.
With a wall.
Yeah.
With a wall. I mean.
Honestly, though, this track's came a long ways from about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When I went a couple of years ago, and it was really dusty and really.
Yeah, it was
slick all the time, but it's come around. They've figured it out.
Well, Eddie Van Meter and them, I've worked a few races for them up there, but I was real skeptical when a guy that owns a pavement super late model team, races pavement figure 8, decided he was going to be promoter of a dirt track. I was the first one that said, this probably isn't going to work, but I was wrong. It worked, and he does a really good job of preparing the track. Circle City it's one of those places, I see where T-Man said one time, that it's a banger of a place. So that's a kid saying, Flash, but as we would say, they figured it out. So they had the Boss sprint cars there this week, and Fairbury. I think they have 1 or 2 races left. You're getting up in the upper Midwest. They close stuff down.
Oh yeah.
Because hell, there's a possibility up where they're at. They might have a foot of snow in the next week or 2.
Well, it's actually harvest time
Yeah.
too. You lose a few cars to the farmers that are taking care of us.
So Fairbury, they have the Mars late models and mod. I think the Mars has like 2 races left on their schedule. I don't think they end at Fairbury. I think they end at Spoon River. Don't quote me on that, but they have the Mars late models at Fairbury this weekend. And like we said earlier, one place that's got big slide jobs, monster cushions. You can check out Fairbury. And the Lucas Oil Series is on the road to the big old half mile to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Motor Speedway. Funny story about this, Flash. I've been to this racetrack, but I didn't get to put it on my list because we got rained out. So my wife and I made a trip all the way out to Bedford and Bedford, Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And that was one of those trips that she was ready to kill me. We drove 8-9 hours. At Bedford, we sit in the bleachers for 6 hours, covered, and watch them wheel pack for 6 straight hours. And then when the late models pulled onto the track for hot laps, it started raining again. Then we went down to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Motor Speedway, and never actually followed Eddie Carrier into the racetrack, and I walked up, looked at the track, and they canceled because of the rain. So we hightailed it. What we do, we racers race, and we ended up in West Virginia that night at Tyler County Speedway. But the Pittsburgher 100 this weekend for the Lucas Oil race used to be 100 laps like the North-South, but I think now it's a 40-lap race on Friday and a 60-lap on Saturday. So Lucas Oil is they're winding down, but about like this podcast, we're winding down for the night. We're 50-something minutes into it. Did you have a good time?
Oh yeah, this was fun. We're gonna get better.
We are because we're gonna be the first to tell you we suck right now. We're okay with saying we suck.
Yeah.
Right now we're in the B main, so we're not technically. We're probably at the Chili Bowl. We're like in the J main.
Yeah.
We're trying to race our way forwards. But we're gonna get better at this. We're gonna get better equipment. We got some more equipment coming, and hopefully I can edit this and this makes the air. If not, all we did was sit and bullshit and watch the race for an hour or so.
We gotta start somewhere. You know how.
Yeah,
the setup might not be right yet. But
no, it's not right.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, we're kind of like the Fords at the Drome right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to go somewhere else, but we just don't really know if we can. But guys, we're gonna try. We're not gonna try. We're gonna do this once a week. What day is it gonna be published? I don't know because I don't know how to. We're gonna see how it goes. I talked to a couple people, and they tell me that you need to put podcast out on Wednesday or Thursday. I don't know nothing about it, so that's what we're going to shoot for. We're going to try to put our podcast out on Wednesday or Thursday. So we can talk about the races and the race trips that we made. And even in the wintertime, guys, we're still going to talk. There's going to be races on Flow. And, we might even do something where we do a watch along. And, if it's under 16 hours, we can make it.
Yeah. We go to races in the wintertime too if we can find anything racing.
And
we might be indoors somewhere watching. Or
we could be indoors or we could be outdoors. Making the cover of a magazine, being 3 of us only in the bleachers, because we've done that. We've done that at Talladega. The cover photo said the checker flag waves on the coldest ice bowl in history. And
23 degrees.
It was 23 degrees, and there was 3 people in the stands when the Raging Cajun mini stocks finished the series off. And we were 2 of those really brilliant guys sitting there in the stands. So
that was me and you and my nephew Brian.
Yeah. Everybody else is with us done called it a day. They's all in the car warming up or fighting with the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Because, that happened too.
We could do a whole podcast just on Talladega.
Yeah. So, and which we probably will.
Yeah.
But guys, all I'm going to say this weekend, please get out and support a local racetrack, especially if the season's winding down.
Sportstrom last race got rained out the other night, and they're not going to make that up, I seen.
So Sportstrom's done for the year, but we got Brownstown Fun Fest is coming up. It's always a good weekend. Like I said, you got Hobstadt this weekend. You can always go south. They race, a couple hours away from the Louisville area.
Oh, yeah.
You can go anywhere you want in Tennessee. They race year round down there. Now, they may run 27 divisions, but they will be racing.
Yeah, and they might qualify every single race car.
Yeah, so you might need 3 cheeseburgers that night, but they will be racing. But, guys, please tell everybody about it, about us if you enjoyed it. And if you didn't enjoy it, screw you and come back next week because we're going to try it again. Please tell everybody about us and thank you. Any final words, Flash?
No, we're just going to try to get better at this.
We'll figure it out. Until next week, we're going to be trading sliders. Thank you.